What is up? Welcome back. 2023-2024 NBA season previews. My name is Matt Hanford. I'm with Jackson. Hello, Jackson. What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. I'm excited. NBA season's back. This is our second recording on Christmas Day. Happy Hanukkah, basketball family. Whatever holiday makes you the happiest. That's what today is for the NBA.
Yes, 100,000%. Today we're going to talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves, who, if you ask their fan base and their fans, probably not the happiest with what happened last season and last summer. But 42-40, 23rd in offense, 10th in defense. Karl-Anthony Towns missed most of the season with a calf injury. They had the Rudy Gobert transaction, which is still confusing to this day given on what they gave up. Yes. They traded for Mike Conley midseason, which he helped out a little bit. He's a good stabilizer. And then obviously, last but certainly not least, Anthony Edwards, who the one quote that I remember from the summer, he was at Summer League and they asked him, I'm paraphrasing when I say this, but like they asked him like what his goal for this upcoming season would be or something like that. And he said, kill everybody. And he's coming for throats. He had a great summer with FIBA. But kind of where's your head at with this team, just really based on what happened last year, this offseason, and I guess kind of what you're expecting heading into the season?
I don't know what to do with Minnesota. I really don't. I know we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier about just kind of like our projections for the West and everything. And I don't trust some of the players that they have on there. I don't trust Rudy Gobert. I don't trust Cat. The only player I really trust is Anthony Edwards. But we talked about this with the trade last year, where it's like there's almost a log jam down low with Cat and Gobert and
Naz Reid.
And Cat gets forced to play outside. Anytime Cat has to play outside and falls in love with a three, that's the worst version of Cat. And you'll have a game sometimes where he'll go off for 4 or 5 threes, but that's anybody in the modern NBA, really. But because again, just kind of bringing personal experience back here, Minnesota 2 years ago played Memphis very well in the playoffs, and the games that Memphis was able to move Cat out of the paint and to play primarily outside, that's where they had a lot of success. But and I just, again, I don't know what to do with them. I don't trust this team, not necessarily from a health perspective, but just from being able to compete. And I remember the stats very early on last season. It was like, depending on who was out there was almost like 2 offenses that were out there. But it's like you have 2 where it was like Gobert and Russell was like a great tandem, and then Edwards and Cat was a good tandem. But it's like you couldn't have 3 of the 4 out there together at the same time, and God forbid all 4, because their net rating just started to tank after that. It was not as high as it was when it was just either 2 of them running a 2-man game with McDaniels, maybe even Reed, or just another wing player out there with them. And so I don't know what to do, man. I'm at a loss with Minnesota. They're one of the teams that I look at in the West, and I just kind of throw my hands up because it's like I have no idea.
I'm with you from that perspective, because it's like we're probably going to be repeating ourselves a little bit from what we talked about in our Grizzlies preview. Please go check that out on the YouTube page, and please go check out all of our NBA season previews on VendettaSportsMedia.com. But there's like a variance, and you could really put you're practically having 11 or 12 teams fight for 8 spots, 10 if you include the playing game, but really 8 spots that you're having 11, 12 like legitimate teams who can make a playoff push. And that's not even including San Antonio, who, I mean, I know Chick might agree or disagree or whatever, but they could be like a feisty competitive out just with Victor Wembanyama when he's on the floor. That's not including Houston, who I'm very high on this year, who I think just fall short of the play-in game. Like that doesn't include some of these teams that could be vying for play-in spots. Minnesota is absolutely going to be one of those teams who you probably look at towards the bottom of the pecking order, at least among those 9-10 teams. They were the 8th seed last year. They did lose in 5 games to the Denver Nuggets. It was a pretty competitive 5 games in the first round, but they lost in 5 games nonetheless. Mm-hmm. For just some more clarity, Cat, Gobert, and Edwards only played 32 games last year. And when they were on the floor together, they were about even in terms of like net rating, which I guess for 3 of your best players, you don't necessarily want just a kind of a mediocre net rating, but that's kind of how it was. They didn't have a whole lot of time to develop chemistry, but you could also make the argument that we just kind of know who all 3 of them are. At least you know what you're going to get from Gobert and Towns. It's not going to be some complete revelation for what they'll provide in the front court. Naz Reid did a good job filling those minutes last year, and he's someone who I like a lot, who he re-signed with them right before free agency started. But he's someone who could fill in for either Towns or Gobert, and you don't lose a whole lot just if either one of them are out, kind of like Cat was last year. But there is just a weird it is a weird team and a weird combination. I think the insertion of Mike Conley instead of D'Angelo Russell helps a little bit, and it just helps get those guys in.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. It helps gets those guys in their spots, and it helps like you can get Gobert has previous chemistry with Mike Conley. I think he'll be good next to I think he's like good next to Karl Anthony Towns in terms of just like he knows where to get Towns the basketball. He knows when to get Anthony Edwards going to let him do his thing. I mean, obviously Mike Conley's point of attack defense and defensively, he's not as good as he used to be, but he's still like a solid player and a solid orchestrator and a guy who can just help stabilize an offense. And I think that's something that Minnesota needs and a full season of. I'm very interested to see how this plays out, but I'm with you from the perspective of I just don't know what to think of this team otherwise, because it's like they weren't an efficient offense last year, and now they're getting they're obviously getting Karl Anthony Towns back, which he's a polarizing player, and yeah, if he is playing on the outside in the high post or beyond the arc or whatever, like he's still a very good passer, and he still can identify cutters and stuff like that, and he's still a good shooter. But that, to your point, that's not something you want him in all the time. You can mix it up, but not like for spacing purposes. But like when you have Gobert in there and you're trying to cut, well, it's just harder to manufacture. And so I'm kind of with you. I'm trying to figure out like what to do with this group. I guess outside of the 3 or 4 guys that we talked about, Conley, Edwards, Cat, and Gobert, who do you think is like an X factor for this group, or a guy who needs to step up for this team to I guess make a top 7 seed or top 6 or whatever?
Not necessarily stepping up, and like obviously I want to see him elevate his play, but just the fact that he's going to be healthy, and now that he's extended, Jaden McDaniels is going to be a vital part of this team. And I think to some, I maybe not, but to some might get overshadowed when you have Cat, Gobert, and excuse me, and Anthony Edwards on the team. But McDaniels is going to be vital from a defensive perspective and even an offensive perspective too, but especially on the defensive side. They very much missed him when he broke his hand at the end of last year and in that Nuggets series. And he shined the previous year against Memphis also. So I think a very underrated part of their team is Jaden McDaniels. And I think just, again, getting him healthy and staying healthy and staying in that groove that he's in or was in last year, I think is going to be vital to whatever success that Minnesota is going to have this season. And the crazy thing, and we kind of talked about it a little bit too, not in the episode, but just kind of in between, their cap situation. And it's a good thing that they extended him, but Minnesota fans, this is kind of your team for the foreseeable future. Yep. And there's not really any wiggle room out of it because you traded away a lot of first round picks and some really good rotational pieces that really helped you that previous season, traded them in the Gobert trade, and you have I was looking at it, the cap situation. It's like between Gobert, Edwards, and Cat, it's like almost 40% of their cap is taken up, maybe more. Close to 50% of their cap is taken up between just those three guys. And they're like, we also talked about that they are almost at that second apron tax status. And you don't want to be at that level if you're fighting, like how you and I are talking, are fighting for a potential play-in spot.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, and it also becomes harder to aggregate salaries in a trade, and you can't trade more than what you get back if you're a team like Minnesota, or if you're a second apron team, and then you're also not accessible to buyout guys. Your first round pick, if you're a second apron team for like a 2 years over a 4-year span or something like that, your first round pick 7 years in advance freezes, and that's something that Minnesota needs kind of at this stage. But I do agree with you. I think Jalen McDaniels probably is that X factor, and is a guy that obviously he slots into that starting lineup, and like, you know, his role. You know, he's going to be like that 3-and-D guy, provide some shot creation. He's long, he's lanky. He could create deflections. He's impactful on defensive end. He can guard multiple positions. I just brushed over their what happened during the offseason, but there's some things that I want to point out here. They did lose Jalen Noel. Taurean Prince signed with the Lakers on the biannual extension, which I thought it was a really, really good move for them. Austin Rivers is no longer there. Nathan Knight is no longer there, but they did bring in Troy Brown Jr. They did bring in Shake Milton. One guy who I'm very much looking forward to seeing, because I loved what I saw from him at a summer league, is Leonard Miller, who they drafted 33rd overall in the second round. He is like, it creates even more of a logjam in the front court, but I still think he can play the 4. I think he can even play the 3 a little bit as kind of like a big 6'9", 6'10" 3. But he's an incredible rebounder. He works his ass off on the defensive end of the floor. Like, that's what he did during summer league. Like, he's blocking jump shots. He's switching on to everyone, containing guys in front. He did a phenomenal job with that, as well as when he was with G League Ignite, he averaged 17, 18 a game with on good efficiency. His shot is still coming along, but it looked a lot smoother than it did in summer league. Like, this guy might be a legitimate rotation player from day one. And I try not to say that lightly, because it's like, there's only so many spots. You have 9-10 spots really in theory for the regular season, and then that just shrinks during the playoffs. But this guy could be like a legitimate, impactful rookie, maybe not at this very, very start of the season, but like throughout the season. And it just made me I'm super interested to see like what he does as a rookie, because of like that two-way potential, that two-way pedigree. Again, he's already played professional basketball technically for 1 year with G League Ignite, and he looked good doing it. And I can't believe he fell to the second round. It just blows my mind every time I think about it. But that's just how deep this draft class was. But what do you think about that? Like, I was trying to form a question.
Yeah. But. Yeah, no. I think you're absolutely correct. They need more guys like that on this roster, because again,
two-way guys,
two-way guys, because they got rid of that wing depth in the Gobert trade. And so, like you said, they need to do a great job. This is where it's time for the GM, and it's time for the scouts to earn the paychecks that they get from the organization. And I think they did a great job in getting Leonard Miller. I agree. I remember seeing him in summer league, and I think you described him perfectly. Very energetic, active hands. You want guys like that, even if he's, your ninth guy to start out. And like you said, maybe he's not even that to start out, but he's going to get his opportunity. He's going to be able to show out, and he'll be able to carve himself some space, because that's what they need. desperately. But again, like the rest of the team, though, man, it's so hard. And I'm also like trying to think at the same time, like, where do I place them in terms of the rest of the NBA? And I know that's kind of going to be how we, wrap this up here. But it's just, I mean, I'm looking at the Western Conference right now, and it's like, I don't know. It's tough because it's when you look at where they finished last season, they finished 8th last season. But then it's like, I feel like right behind them was OKC. I think they got better, obviously, because Chet's going to be back. Shea taking the leap.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, again, this like the same teams that we've already talked about. New Orleans is hanging back there as well, but depending on their health. And then the one team that we haven't mentioned that was completely out of the playoff picture last year, the Mavericks. Too.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's crazy to think of the Mavericks being out of the playoff picture last year, but now you're going to throw them back in there. I don't know what to do with them. And I think my safe place to put them is like, again, that 8th, 9th seed.
I struggled with this one as well. Again, I struggled with practically every team in the West in like the top 12, 13. Yeah. And even like with San Antonio and Portland and Utah, I had a hard time.
Yeah, maybe I can't remember, but there was some talk of it's like get rid of divisions, just the top 16 teams, just toss them in there.
They would be most of the Western Conference in like Boston, Milwaukee, Miami, Cleveland, whatever. I right now have them as a 10 seed.
Yeah.
Again, the 3 teams I have above them in that play-in chase is New Orleans, the Clippers, and the Kings. I have the Kings dropping a lot. And again, like part of it's just due to how good the West is. I think there'll be some injury regression. I don't like predicting injuries, but like with Minnesota, I think I just looked at it. Their over-under win total is 44.5. I don't think they hit that over.
No.
I think that goes under, and I think a part of that is due to the fact that they are banking on Cat, Gobert, and Edwards, and even Mike Conley to play 50 games together, 60 games together. And by virtue of them playing together, it's going to help their over-under win total. But I still don't know if they get to 45 wins. Again, in this conference, I mean, they might, but it's such a tough ask just because of everyone else. And obviously, like, you need Cat to stay healthy. You need Gobert to stay healthy. You need Edwards, most importantly, to stay healthy. You need Conley to stay healthy. Obviously, as we talked about, Jaden McDaniels, if he doesn't like punch a wall or whatever he punches, should be all right. Just knock on wood. Hope he doesn't get hurt.
Not too hard on the wood though.
Yeah. I don't know. Like it's just weird. Like I think they're like a 9-10 seed again, fighting for a playing spot, including like teams like Dallas who are going to be fighting with them. Utah looks fun. The Rockets I'm much higher on this year. Like there's just so many teams, and there's going to be a couple like teams who are just like, wait, they finished 11th and 12th. Like what? And that's just how the Western Conference is this year, and it makes for more parity. It's fun, but like in terms of like projecting it before a game's even been played, it's a little bit tough.
Yeah, they're going to be one of those teams this year. They are going to be a team.
They're definitely going to be a basketball team.
They are a basketball team. Yeah,
no question about it. Do you have any like final thoughts?
I'm speechless with this team, man. I'm sorry. My heart goes out to all Minnesota fans because, again, you're almost a second apron tax-paying team, and you are going to be fighting for a play-in spot. Yeah. And that's like not me trying to be rude. That's not a rivalry thing. I'm taking off the fandom cap and I'm putting on the analytics cap, the analysis cap. the NBA fan cap,
Yeah.
and it doesn't look good for them at all.
And if I know anything about Minnesota sports, yes, I am a Vikings fan. Picked up a big win last night against San Francisco.
Hey, that was big.
It was big.
Big Kirk, go back.
Yeah. But if I know anything about Minnesota sports, there's some disappointment. Like
that's the vast majority of fan bases. Like, how many other fan bases have actually won championships in the past 20, 30 years? It's relatively a finite amount of fans that are happy.
That's fair. That is very fair. But there is like still disappointment to go around, and I don't, especially after the Gobert trade, like we're just like, wait, what? They give up again? Like what? Just a wild trade. I'm still amazed.
And it broke
the market. By Walker Kessler too. Who?
Yeah, yeah, and it completely broke the trade market. Like freaking, the Raptors won't part with OG Anunoby for 3 first-round picks. Like,
well, that's Masai being Masai.
Yeah,
I don't think I could blame that much on the trade market. He's Toronto, and he and Toronto and what they've done with trades, or what they haven't done with trades over the last few years. It's its own separate entity. But like Daryl Morey, they're just two guys. I mean, I guess I can use my own Pat Riley. They just haven't made many transactions over the last several years, and it feels like sometimes they want to win every trade. I think more so the former two than the other, but we don't want to talk about them, nor the Raptors or the 76ers. I guess my final thoughts with them is buckle up, because it's probably going to be another crazy roller coaster type season where it's like, wait, they're 33-33 and they're a game back of the 10 seed or 9 seed or whatever. Or perhaps it's even better. Perhaps they're top, not a top, but perhaps they're like a top 6 seed in the West, and they prove us wrong. But at least as of right now, as it's currently constructed, I do not see that happening. Even though it is going to be a nut crunch for 75% of that conference, at least. But anyways, thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please go check out VendettaSportsMedia.com. We have all of our NBA season previews up. We're going to be having our NBA previews up on the YouTube page, so please go watch all those and check those out. Please like all of those. And then as well as check out our other content. Major League Baseball postseason is going on right now. NHL season just started. College football and the NFL are in full swing. We're doing predictions every week for the NFL. I'm somehow still lasted against the spread, which even though I have a decent record, but everyone's just that much smarter and that much better.
I had a bad week this week, so
I haven't actually calculated how well I did, but probably not good.
Anyway, different story.
Please go check all that stuff out. Please like and subscribe. Thank you all for watching. See y'all next time.